Hi, Steve Mullins here with the Health and Safety Channel again. This video, topic-wise and title-wise, is mold clearance inspections. Why are they important? Now, these can go by different names, such as post-mold remediation clearance inspection, and a variety of combinations of that. Now, what is a mold clearance inspection, first of all? Well, it's basically where an independent third party, such as someone like myself, either a microbial consultant or industrial hygienist, as I've talked about in other videos, that will go in to the area that was being remediated by a restoration company. In other words, mold and bacteria have been removed or are being removed from an area in the home, and they inspect it to make sure that it basically meets three criteria: clean, dry, and free of mold. Now, in this context, when I say mold, I'm also referring to bacteria. And most companies that do these clearance inspections don't necessarily test for bacteria. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. So these are important for an obvious reason. Hopefully you understand that the company that does the remediation is one entity. They do the work and and do the mechanics of what should be done. The mold clearance inspector, like myself or an industrial hygienist, will go to that contained area. It's normally called a containment. There can be one or more of them in a property, depending on what's going on. And they'll go in there to inspect it visually and also with their equipment to verify that the areas that are being remediated are dry to within industry standards. Usually it's less than 18%, depending on the material that's being measured. Usually they're measuring wood and drywall, and these should be below 18% in most cases, and sometimes even lower depending. And the idea is to make sure that there's no elevated moisture that will cause mold and bacteria to grow again. That would also include perhaps any of the flooring, concrete flooring, whether you're upstairs or downstairs, depending, would also apply depending on the situation. And the reason these inspections are important is because you're trying to verify that the work the remediation company did is in fact done correctly or to within industry standards, which means basically it's safe to start repairs and there's no other lingering issues. And another reason that it's important is because a third of those inspections that I do will fail the first time around for one of those three reasons. Either it's maybe not quite dry enough because one of the uh, mechanics that were doing the work, one of the technicians didn't verify that all the area is dry within industry standards. Or two, it may not visually look correct for one reason or the other. And three, there may be a high mold spore count in the air sample that's taken by that inspector. And in either of those scenarios, if it doesn't pass for one reason or the other, the inspector, meaning myself or someone like me, will give direction on what needs to be done to fix the deficiency. And so this verifies that the work, when it's done, is done to within industry standards, and it's safe from the standpoint of your home and your family. It's safe to start the repairs. So that's one real big reason why it's important to have these done. Now let's talk about some other perhaps potential details of this. Now, about the mold clearance inspection, I'm going to talk about it from two viewpoints or two advantage points. One is from the renter standpoint, if you're the renter. The other is the homeowner. Now, if you're the homeowner and you're the one hiring uh, this company to come in and do the clearance inspection, or paying for it, I should say, the reason I say it that way because a lot of times the restoration companies that do the work may already have, in a sense, a company they know, or in a sense, a partnership with a mold clearance inspection company, if you will. Now, that can be good and bad at the same time. There could be a conflict of interest there with that inspection company because they're very closely related or tied to that restoration company because they get business from them. So you want to make sure that you get all the information from that clearance company that you need to have. They need to be honest and upfront with you. Now, if you doubt that can be the case, then certainly hire an independent party that of either the CIH or CMC I've talked about uh, from your local area and have them do it. And that's certainly fine. Nothing wrong with that. And you let that company know who's doing the remediation. that you're doing it. And they'll tell you when they're ready for that inspection, and you make an appointment for that inspector, that the company that will do the mold clearance inspection, for the day that that company says they'll be ready for it. And that's important to know, because you don't want to have it too early if they're not ready, or too late, so to speak. So they can tell you when they'll be ready. Um, that way, that inspector can be honest and objective with you and tell you what should be done and what needs to be done. Where the other company, in some cases, depending on how close their relationship is, um, you know, they may or may not be as honest with you, possibly. Now, the other is that the company that the restoration company brings in as a clearance company, if you will, you want to make sure of their credentials. They should be either working under a certified microbial consultant or industrial hygienist, as I've talked about before. There are a number of companies that sort of masquerade, I hate to use that term, but they don't really have the high credentials or high enough ones to actually do these inspections and for it to be able to hold up in court, possibly. So you want to check out the credentials. Now, from a renter's standpoint, we want to look at it this way. Now, if you're a renter and the landlord is doing remediation in your home, apartment, whatever you live in, you know, how do you get that done? By law, they don't have to test for mold, yet if they're trying to fix a problem that you notified them of, or maybe they were informed of it somehow, and they're now having a restoration company remediate one or more areas in the home you live in, then you would want to insist on having a clearance inspection done and be able to see those results. But they don't, by law, have to do that for you or give you the results of it. So, what is your option? Well, you can potentially hire a company like myself, or with the credentials I've talked about, to come in and do that for you when that company is ready for that inspection. Now, there may be a little bit of a conflict there, or in the sense of some difficulties in trying to arrange that, but you certainly can do it because you are in possession of the property. Now, you may be able to take that off your rent, the fee that you pay for that clearance inspection. That in this situation, is going to be a little kind of tricky. But if your landlord is not willing to release the results to you and be totally transparent with their inspector, or even pay to have one done, then certainly you're within your rights to have it done. Again, how to get the expense back from the landlord, that may well be possible, but I can't say one way or the other for sure. So those inspections will run. For example, mine started about $750 per containment, or for the initial containment, I should say. And if there's more containments, it'll be a little bit more. And other companies may be a little higher. There might be one or two that are slightly lower, but in most cases, if they are lower in price, they're usually lower in credential as well, and may not be as good or as knowledgeable to do the inspection. So keep those things in mind, and because you certainly want to make sure you have a safe place to live and the work is done properly. That's all for now. Stay safe. And if you need to, email me with a question or in the comments. I'll respond the best I can. Thanks.